1. Hi everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the ECS Ask Me Anything series. My name is Ali Hill, and I'm a delivery consultant at ECS, and I'm going to be hosting this session this afternoon. So today, I'm delighted to be hosting a partner special with Cloud Native Security Specialist, Aqua Security. And from Aqua, we're going to be joined by Senior Director of Solution Architects, Benjy, I hope I got that title right, and DevSecOps Architect, Andrea. And on the ECS side, delivery consultant Matt will be joining us, who's got experience in Aqua's tooling. So before I hand over to the panelists to introduce themselves, I'd like to remind everyone that you can ask questions by using the chat box in the YouTube video just below this video window. And we're going to be monitoring questions as they come in, and we'll do our best to put your questions to the panel throughout the session. And if we don't get to your question, then please leave a comment on the video, on the recording, and we'll do our best to get back to you after that as well. So after this brief introduction of our panelists, we'll dive right into about 40 minutes of questions and answers. So you can ask questions throughout if any of the discussion that the panelists are having prompts an idea in your head or something that you'd like to have answered. So let's start with having the panel introduce themselves. Benjy, do you want to kick off?
Sure. So thank you for that, Ali. Firstly, I'll say you definitely have the coolest accent out of any of us. So I'm happy if you just want to keep speaking, and I'll, I think that probably get the most viewers. But I'm Benjy. I've been with Aqua Security for about 4.5 years. I'm based in Tel Aviv, Israel, where it's beautiful and the sun is shining. And just looking here at both Andrea and Matt, the last time I saw both of you was in Tel Aviv, where we went out to eat shawarma. So next time you guys are around, definitely like to do that again.
Would love to.
Great. Invite me this time as well.
I definitely will.
Cool.
Consider it done.
Thanks for that, Benjy, and thanks for joining. Andrea, how about you?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm calling right now from the sunny London. I'm one of the newest DevSecOps architects for Aqua, and I'm helping right now a client, towards their digital transformation path. I've been working with other clients in the past as well for helping them with the DevOps practices in general, and helping them towards the path toward the cloud, immutable infrastructure, and everything that it comes when you start considering cloud native technologies, basically. Yeah, so happy to be here.
Great, and yeah, thanks for joining as well. Matt, how about yourself?
Sure. Hi everyone. My name is Matthew Song, and I'm an APAC delivery consultant based out of Singapore. And I've been working with ECS for a little over 3 years. And I believe with regards to Aqua, I think I've been working with it consistently for about 2 years now with clients from around the region as well as in Europe.
That's great. And I know
I love it passionately.
I do very much.
Great.
And I know I've thanked Andrea and Benjy already, but special thanks to you, Matt, because I know it's about 7 p.m. over there. So thanks for taking the time out of your evening to join us.
More than happy to help with Aqua, definitely.
It's a perfect way to spend the weekend in Singapore.
A different kind of Aqua, maybe.
So you can see we've got a really knowledgeable panel here when it comes to the Aqua tooling and Aqua platform. So I'm really looking forward to learning more myself throughout the session from the panel. So I suppose we'll jump right in with an introductory question. Why might people know Aqua Security? Can you give us some background on the work that you do and who you work with? And I'll start off by asking Benjy this question.
Sure, yeah, I can take that. So Aqua was founded just over 5 years ago, at the time to address some of the security challenges around containers, which at the time were this new nascent technology. People were trying out containers in staging and testing environments. Fast forward 5 years, where cloud native is almost a given. So today, Aqua is the #1 pure play cloud native security company. And we are exclusively focused on protecting technologies such as containers, Kubernetes, serverless functions, cloud VMs. Obviously, the industry has evolved and changed. It's almost a given that most large enterprises today are using cloud-native technologies. And we have hundreds of customers across the world in every vertical that we work with. You may also be familiar with Aqua from some of our open source offering. We have a very broad open source offering with a lot of traction in the open source community, which helps developers and DevOps engineers really streamline security into a lot of their DevOps processes.
Yeah, I would like to add on that something else as well from my more engineering perspective, because working with engineering teams in the past and leading digital transformation or DevOps transformation means most of the times that you will face certain kind of challenges. Definitely you have a tooling challenge, because suddenly everything that you used to do before in a way now changes its shape. But then you have new visibility challenges. So before you used to have a fleet of servers, they were there static. Maybe they would change every now and then, but not so often. And now you have a fleet of containers, crazy containers that run everywhere. And so you have visibility in terms of infrastructure, visibility in terms of application. But then as an engineer, as a responsible engineer, you start facing questions which relate to security. Because obviously, if everything changes and your processes change their shape as well, so you used to develop and deploy and deliver in a way, and now everything is different. You must think about security not in a different way, but in the appropriate way, in a way which is compatible, but not only compliant with the cloud native security, but in this case, which is born with the intention of looking after cloud native technology. So this is why most of the times when you start thinking about security plus cloud native plus container orchestration or cloud, you might be, stumble across Aqua.
That's great. Thank you for that, guys. Like you said, like having visibility on your security, especially in the new development processes, is really important. Benjy, you kind of touched on it. You spoke a bit about the open source aspect of Aqua. So I was going to ask why building an open source engineering team is so important to Aqua.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So number one, I think from a cultural perspective, if you speak to DevOps teams, typically they eat open source for breakfast. It's almost a given that DevOps teams will be using various open source tools. And it's almost like a cultural thing. And I would also say that if you look at how these cloud native applications are actually built, they're comprised of many third-party components, whether that is a base image, could be dependencies, third-party libraries from externally hosted repositories. And while this may be very efficient, make life easy for developers and productive on the one hand, obviously it introduces concerns around security. As Andrea said, both in terms of the visibility, but also how do we take that kind of mindset? And whereas security used to be something that we would superimpose once the application is in production, today it's more about empowering the DevOps teams, giving them the knowledge, the tools, and the awareness around the risks and the potential threats, so they can kind of be empowered and take control of the security. And as we know, security is driven a lot of time by externally mandated regulatory compliance or technical standards. And the DevOps mindset is all about the agility. Everything is done as code, everything is automated, and the velocity is key. So if security is perceived as something that will slow down the development of these applications, developers will simply find ways to circumvent it. So we have specifically built out our security tools that we provide at Aqua to be native and inherently part of that pipeline, shifting the security left, empowering the DevOps teams, but also ensuring that the security teams, the SecOps teams have visibility into the threats, and obviously providing the necessary information to help the DevOps teams and the developers remediate when we do identify a risk at some point in that development lifecycle.
Yeah, I would like to add on that from an engineering perspective, when it comes with open source tools, open source technology, this is something that touched me personally, because if I'm dealing with an open source tool, I feel like encouraged to contribute to it. It feels like it's something that doesn't belong to someone, but it's even partially mine. So I feel proud because I can contribute, but at the same time, for Aqua, it's a way to give back to everybody, basically, because every single engineering team right now can go to the GitHub projects, open source project, and just get a copy of them. So they can use them for free. They can cover mostly every single part of the security for what concerns their cloud native technology. So even if it comes to scanning for understanding how compliant is their Kubernetes environment, they can do it for free. If they want to scan the registry and make sure that the images are secure, they have a tool for that. And they can also, monitor workloads at runtime with the open source tools. So the great thing about having an open source, tool portfolio is that you don't necessarily have to ask for permission to use it. So if you're a responsible engineer, as I try to be for many years, at some point you have to ask yourself this question: how secure is my infrastructure? Yes, it's super cool because I'm using Kubernetes. Yes, it's super cool because I'm delivering way faster than before. But is it secure as well? Do I have visibility? You must ask yourself these questions at some time. And being able to just go there and grab the tool and check for yourself is just an amazing opportunity that every engineer has right now. Obviously, it comes the time when the company takes the initiative. So the company says, okay, you've been looking after your own part of the infrastructure, the one that you own, and you made sure that that's secure, but we want a 360 degrees enterprise wide security product for us. So it's not just going to be you because you're a great engineer, you're very responsible. It's going to be company wide, and we want to make sure that it integrates with everything. We want to make sure that we have full visibility across everything. So that's what Aqua can do for a company. That's when Aqua is actually as the answer. It doesn't only give you this platform that can do all of what you used to do before, but it also give you support, obviously, and yes, resources that can help you onboarding the platform in a proper, most comprehensive way. But yet again, the open source tooling that you have at your disposal right now as an engineer, talking from an engineering perspective, is just amazing.
I can just jump in there and say that I actually met Andrea. He probably tries to forget this. In London a few years ago. You were actually an Aqua customer. I think you were about 15 at the time, maybe 14, I don't remember. But I do remember sitting down with you and the developers, and the application had already been built. So the development, no one was waiting for security to come in and understand how this stuff works. It was kind of like, this needs to go live in 2 weeks. And then suddenly the security team has, we have these compliance, we have to comply with different regulatory standards. And how do we take the traditional security stack that we know and love, whether it's tools, processes, best practices, and apply that to a cloud native world? And if you look at, because of the technology here, containers are inherently, they are ephemeral, they're, never mind serverless functions. So many of the well-established processes in the kind of cyber world, like incident response and forensics, require a shift and changing of a mindset when the applications that we're talking about are cloud native.
Yeah, and it's nice that you mentioned that, because Matt, sorry if I interrupt.
No, please go ahead.
I remember that at that time, when you mentioned, we were actually already using by this client, this telco client, monitoring and application analysis tool. And I remember that we were struggling because when we started shifting the workloads towards OpenShift at that time, we were waiting for this vendor to patch their software to make sure that you could actually monitor not only our servers, but also our containers. And I remember thinking when I met Aqua for the first time, this product doesn't need a patch to become compatible with cloud, doesn't need an extension or anything like that. This product is actually focusing on cloud and cloud native technology from the very start. So we don't have to wait. We don't have to find a way to squeeze, the security control that we had before and see how they, work when they suddenly the workload are so dynamic. So they come up, the product registered them, then they disappear, and the product says, "Oh, but they're gone." So yeah, no, something's gone wrong. So we don't have this kind of behavior anymore. We don't have to, patch it or bend it or to make it work with such a highly dynamic environment. Aqua would just work right away. Aqua was meant to work with this kind of dynamics.
Yeah,
music.
Everything that you guys mentioned is actually something I also feel quite passionate about. Like the main reason I worked with Aqua for so long, or enjoyed working with Aqua for so long, is honestly just its low barrier of entry, which does not reflect on the lack of functionality, I might add. Okay, Aqua is still a very powerful tool, specifically the CSP solution. Okay, but I've always like even from our very first meeting, which was me going over with Andrea, my ad for the training, it's like, okay, so this is the Aqua CSP2, this is what it does, this is how you set it up, and this is how you can get all of the reports, like that. Very simple. Okay, something that I can definitely get behind. Because like, sure, tools and applications can be very powerful, have a lot of capabilities and all that. But if nobody understands how to make use of any of the functions, there's really no point in it, I would say. Okay, and the thing about Aqua, like the initial barrier of entry, very low. Setting up and all that, it's very simple. Okay, and the point about integration, I would say, is actually something I feel is very important, because with the ease of integration, it means that we can integrate Aqua with existing clients' solutions. They don't need to change too much of what they are doing, okay, unless their DevOps processes needs improvement. But that's a separate issue. Okay, we're specific to the Aqua details. Okay, let's say if they have a pipeline, for example, Aqua can just come in and help improve or build on their existing pipeline. There's not too much additional integration or points and all those type of details. Okay, or you can just step in and just add a stage for Aqua to just scan the containers being built or being deployed, and we're done. Okay, we've already taken a step towards securing our cloud infrastructure on that front.
So Matt, how would you rate the food in Tel Aviv? 1 to 10.
I certainly miss it a lot.
Sure.
I would say an 8 at least.
Okay. Correct answer.
Sorry. It's almost lunchtime here. You can now ask this question.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, Ali, back to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Sparma aside, what do you guys think the ECS and Aqua Security partnership looks like? What sort of benefits do you see that partnership bringing to both parties, I guess? And Andrea, I don't know if I want to start with you.
Yeah, I'm happy to start with this, because the challenges, obviously, that an Aqua client faces sometimes go beyond security itself. We work with companies that are embracing DevOps. So the very minimum thing that we could do as Aqua and as a platform is to provide to these teams DevOps tools to deploy Aqua itself, obviously. And eventually Aqua will help you throughout your DevOps journey, digital transformation journey, and so on. But sometimes there are several considerations to make it beyond Aqua itself. You might want, for example, to make sure that you install Aqua properly with the right tooling. So for example, you have an option, just to mention one, to install Aqua using Helm rather than an OpenShift operator. But this is very, very tied on how your own environment works. So every client will have different clients will have different kind of requirements and tools. So having a partnership with ECS help us, going beyond just Aqua itself, but making sure that the client is actually ready and is, it is taking the best out of the Aqua platform, but it's also, can also all the other processes that go beyond Aqua itself are ready, are working at the best capacity. You might think, for example, that instead of just having one single installation of Aqua, you want to have an installation in development environment. You want to promote your installation with an automated pipeline. So there are so many things that you can do, and this is where a partner like ECS is very, very helpful, if not, almost essential for us, because help us and helps the client to achieve the best.
I don't know if Benjy or Matt, you've got anything to add to Andrea's answer there.
Well, I can speak from a ECS perspective. I do recall, I think the partnership is a little over 2 years, I believe, okay, with Aqua.
Mm-hmm.
So I was around during the very initial part when ECS decided to partner up with Aqua. And I can definitely speak from experience that at the time, we are doing DevOps, although the entire industry, I would say, is shifting towards DevSecOps. Okay, so we had a wide variety of partners that covers basically the entire DevOps pipeline, Ansible, Terraform, Jenkins, that covers all the various aspects for orchestration, infrastructure and code, and stuff like that. However, I would say a key part that was definitely missing was definitely security, and in Aqua's case specifically, container and cloud native security. So a partnership was definitely a given. I would say it's a match made in heaven, perhaps. Yeah, because it definitely seemed like such a natural fit. As everyone gets more, I would say, security conscious, okay, and wanting to promote better security practices, we definitely need to be able to offer clients better security tools and security solutions and security processes, all of that together. Okay, and having Aqua come in definitely helped improve our offering. Okay, and I would say once again, because of the entire shift throughout the entire industry towards DevSecOps, okay, and having Aqua fit in nicely, it helps us and helps our clients to have a better and more secure environment. And again, returning back to how easy it is to set up, the clients do not need to worry too much on what can we do with the tool or how are we Okay, we can very easily just set everything up, integrating the environment, and then as a start, we can just start highlighting what issues that clients have. Then from there, they can build on their processes okay, so now we at least know what the problems are. How can we fix them? So I would say the partnership is a very good fit on that front.
Yeah,
actually,
I agree. Sorry, go on, Benjy.
No, I was just going to say that I'm actually a bit emotional hearing Matt describe it as a match made in heaven. I can only take it downhill after that. Take it away, Andrea. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that I completely agree with the point that Matt has just made. So the client might even consider not to go to the cloud at all, because if their business is very sensitive, treating with data which is very important, going to the cloud or going, to restructure and refactor their infrastructure might actually expose them to very serious risks. So this way, as Matt says, you have expertise for what concern, going throughout your DevOps journey. You have confidence that you go there, you achieve the best out of the cloud native technology, but at the same time, you won't necessarily expose yourself to unnecessary risks because you have everything under control. So it's not just about tooling. Once again, this is one of the most important lessons I learned. Tools are great, but it's about, building confidence. Is about achieving business objectives, which means going there faster, going there more securely, being more dynamic, being able to react to problems, because in a way or another, you will have something to face. nobody can prevent that. But being able to spot, react, and that's the best way, or the best position that you put yourself and your client that you're working with.
Definitely couldn't sum it up better myself.
I was going to actually, Jill, go back to you, Matt, and ask a bit about, you spoke about the benefits that using Aqua tools brings to customers. I was wondering if you could just dive a little bit deeper into that and just talk about what tools you use and if there are any examples that you can share around benefits that's brought to ECS customers.
Sure, definitely. So many engagements, so much complicated engagement. Okay, but I would say ultimately we were able to improve on the client's environment. Okay, so generally, with regards to the specific tools that I work with, I would say the cloud native security platform is my bread and butter with regards to Aqua. Okay, and I would say generally that's usually how all of our engagements start, because a lot of the clients are interested in securing their cloud native environment. Okay, but the exact specific configuration can vary from client to client, which is expected, of course. Okay, I've had some that I believe one in Philippines that was just strictly focused on just their serverless protection offering. Okay, they just wanted to deploy the Aqua's Nano Enforcers to protect the AWS functions, which makes sense for their environment because they had a lot of stuff that was on-premise, but they wanted to try and move specifically to serverless stuff. So yeah, makes sense. So their focus was on that front. Then others, they were utilizing, I believe, Azure's Kubernetes services, AKS. Okay, so on the managed Kubernetes service front, that was the client's focus. Okay, and the one I find most common with a lot of clients is just a conventional container and orchestrator protection. That's the one I would say how Aqua CSP initially started and specialized on, and is the most common use case I've worked with. Okay, so narrowing and focusing on the conventional use case of orchestrator security, I would say there are two features that I find to be really game changers, I would say, or really critical. Okay, well, one would be the DTA, dynamic threat analysis, as well as the virtual patching visual capabilities that the Aqua CSP offers. Okay, for DTA, it's basically a way for Aqua to safely detonate and detect threats that may escape our static malware scanners. I believe Benjy might be better equipped at elaborating more on that later on. Okay, but essentially, I've always been very happy and interested in that capability because it is a natural fit. Because sure, containers we can catch all sorts of vulnerabilities, okay, from our static scanning, but we never actually know what will happen when a container actually starts executing. Okay, and we do have the capabilities with Aqua to be able to detect and enforce certain runtime protections. That's definitely possible. Okay, but ideally, of course, we would be able to stop it or detect these issues even before they come into place. That's like a prevention is better than cure, basically. Okay, so having the DTA offering is something that is fantastic in having that option, and once again, being able to integrate it easily with like Jenkins pipeline, helps automate the process and ensures that there is less resistance in taking up DTA. For the use case I would actually like to talk a bit more about would actually be vShield, the virtual patching feature. Okay, so to provide some setting, essentially what happened after we installed the tool, okay, is that the client basically started panicking because they found through Aqua's auditing, they had lots of vulnerabilities, lots and lots of vulnerabilities, and no small number of them were actually very critical vulnerabilities that needed to be addressed. Okay, but the thing is, with this particular client, they were still going through their DevOps journey and process. So because of that, that means their team was still relatively new. The people's and processes were all new, and they were still ironing out the kinks. Okay, so what that meant is that they didn't have the proper processes in place at the time to remediate all of these vulnerabilities. Okay, because they definitely had expertise, but not how would they go about dealing with it. They were still trying to figure it out. Okay, and so that was the main problem. Okay, and the thing about that is obviously these vulnerabilities that are being detected was actually in their production environment. So that means it could very be liable to exploits. Okay, and that will obviously cost the business a lot of financial problems and issues. But due to the time, I believe it was December-ish, now there are business requirements for certain shopping sites to not take down their sites and their applications because business impact all that. So they were essentially caught between a rock and a hard place. Do they cross their fingers and hope nothing happens, only for something to happen, or do they take down the containers and then lose time and lose business opportunities? Okay, so in comes in Aqua's virtual patching with vShield. So long story short, essentially the virtual patching allows us to create specific Aqua policies that can lock down and block the vulnerabilities that we found as a result of the Aqua scan. Okay, so what this meant is that it essentially bought the teams time to be able to develop and refine their existing processes so they could actually fix and deal with these security vulnerabilities. Okay, sure, in a way you could call it a band-aid, but at least at the time, for that month or so, okay, they could be confident that these visual policies would stop and prevent these exploitations from happening. Okay, so these vulnerabilities could at least be patched in a way, hence the term virtual patching. Okay, so once the teams, once the business had concluded essentially, okay, and the business side was able to release them to be able to carry out their processes, and they already built up their processes, they were able to start remediating and fixing all of the vulnerabilities that were detected, or at least steadily at the time. Okay, so I would say in this case, definitely Aqua's vShield patching was very much appreciated feature by the client.
Okay, Matt, I'm going to talk to our marketing. We definitely want you to do the vShield commercials. I think the way you describe the customer's pain and even smiling as you spoke about that pain, we'll take it offline. We shouldn't have
smiling in hindsight. Smiling in hindsight.
No, that was we need you for that. Maybe I'll just add to that point. So, Matt mentioned both vShield and DTA. I think these are both great examples of innovation. So, Aqua, together with our customers, we are constantly trying to push the envelope in terms of innovating around the cloud native space, understanding what are our customers' pain points and how we can address that. You mentioned vShield. Another great example is risk-based insights. And this was specifically created to allow the customers, when they have finite resources and we have this vulnerability deluge, as you said, Matt, where they have way too many vulnerabilities. And how do I take my team of 3 people and prioritize, right? How do I understand? It's great that I have thousands of vulnerabilities, but if I don't have workloads running in a production environment that can actually be exploited, then the impact of those vulnerabilities may be drastically reduced, right? So risk-based insights helps the customers understand not just that there is a risk here, but how does that risk impact my organization, right? And as a byproduct of that helps us prioritize and say, okay, this is what we need to deal with now, essentially separating the music from the noise. I think another great example is DTA, which you mentioned, dynamic threat analysis. Again, this was as a result of the Aqua cyber research team identifying significant growth in the volume of attacks that we saw specifically targeting cloud native infrastructure. So, whether it's containers, Kubernetes, we saw more and more bad actors targeting this kind of infrastructure to breach organizations and to penetrate into organizations. And it wasn't just the volume that we saw. So there was an exponential growth in terms of the volume of attacks in 2020. about 500% over in the second half of the year versus the first half of the year. But it's also the sophistication of the attacks and the techniques that are being used by these bad actors, whether it's, you know, I think at the beginning it was simple. The incentive for these attacks was something like crypto mining, but that has since evolved, whether it's, you know, data exfiltration, stealing intellectual property, or whatever else the actual incentive is. And we've also seen definitely the sophistication of the attacks in terms of things like evasion techniques. So where in the past we could rely on static scanning to understand, you know, if there is a vulnerability or a known CVE, that does not really help our customers identify malicious activity that happens once these containers are instantiated by the orchestrator. So what DTA does, it says it let's actually run an instance of this application, right? Spin up an instance of this container in an isolated environment and look for malicious activity, you know, IOCs, indicators of compromise. And these typically allow us to observe and identify threats that would not have been identified by simply relying on static analysis. We're seeing a lot of traction around this, again, as these attacks become more ubiquitous, but also more sophisticated.
Yeah, as the bad actors get better at what they do, we have to get better at what we do too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you said, Matt, that ideally you would prevent all of this before even, you know, gets delivered to your, you know, if it's a Docker image, to your Docker registry. So everything is built around this model shifting left to your security. So you want to make sure that you catch everything as soon as possible in a very, you know, fail fast approach. But the power, I mean, Aqua is very powerful because Aqua doesn't only give you, you know, visibility over something that might go wrong or over something that might expose you to certain vulnerability. It also gives you tool to contain the risk once you identified it and to prevent it, or even, you know, patch it at real time, which is very cool. So I mean, if someone is not accustomed to how Aqua works, Aqua starts protecting your workflow from the very Docker build. So let's take a Docker container as an application, as for example. So you won't even start pushing your Docker application into a registry before you are sure that the application doesn't contain any vulnerability. So the developer has visibility over that, because if you're running, for example, your Docker build in a Jenkins environment, the developer will see a dashboard with information about the build, and they will know before they even, you know, start building the image or finish building the image, that the image wouldn't be, you know, ideal for you to push it through any other stage of the pipeline. Then it goes to the registry. Maybe your image is cool at the moment when you build it, but it might actually reveal that there is some vulnerability along the time. So the fact that an image is marked as compliant doesn't mean that the image is going to be compliant forever. And Aqua is there to check and keep checking for you that the image that was good and legit at that time is still, first of all, the same image. So now no one changed it, and with the same name pushed something else in there. And that's what was considered safe when you built it and when you delivered it is still safe along the time. So it's a continuous assurance they give you. But as you both mentioned, when it goes to runtime, so we already, you know, passed the initial stages. When it goes to runtime, Aqua give you visibility over the runtime processes. Make sure that what you wanted to run in terms of workload is actually what is running there. So nobody got into your container and started replacing binaries with malicious binaries. No one started processes that weren't supposed to start, because you can even profile your workload. So you might say, I don't want to know about absolutely everything that is running in my container. You can let Aqua do that for you. So let Aqua figure out how a legit container should run, should work, and Aqua will make sure that that is actually what is going to run on the long term and not anything else. We made some, I remember, Benjy, we made some amazing, tests with this. So even just renaming an ls binary in a container with a malicious binary with the same name and try to run ls would be prevented by Aqua, even if it's obviously the most simple thing, but that won't go through. And as you Matt mentioned, if you figure out that there is a vulnerability, but you are not in the position to fix it because you don't have enough manpower, you don't have enough time, you have other priorities, you can still be there and still be enabled to run the application exactly as they are, just applying the virtual patching, or for example, if you with vShield, or if you're not sure because the image looks compliant, but you don't know what is going to happen with the image, or if there is something that might be exploited at runtime, you can still use DPA to increase even further your confidence that everything that you're running is absolutely legit, absolutely safe. So yeah, I think this is one of the best things that caught my eye when I started working with Aqua. Aqua doesn't only give you visibility over something that is wrong, but give you solution to fix that something that is wrong, or to bear with that without exposing yourself unnecessarily.
Yeah, actually, Andrea, you mentioning about confidence reminded me that because of the way the solution is has been designed and built, Aqua is actually able to catch the vulnerabilities at many levels, I would say, so that it can inspire confidence in. I guess in this case, would be more for the security team, because on the initial part, like if they had their own processors, they could use like developers, when they're building their images, they could use the scanner container to immediately start scanning their images locally. Okay, so that would be the first part. So during development, they could do that. Now let's just say for whatever reason the developer doesn't want to do that. Okay, so he doesn't. He instead just pushes up their image into their image pipeline. If integrated with Aqua can again catch that, because as part of the image build process, there's an Aqua scan stage, and it will identify vulnerabilities on that front. Okay, if for whatever reason, again, the developer doesn't want to follow their procedure and you say let's push directly into the registry, Aqua again can still catch that. Why? Through the integration with the image registry. Okay, and in certain cases, the automatic scanning every day or something along those lines. And once again, yeah. Yes, okay. If again the developer wants to skip that step and deploy immediately into the environment for whatever insane reason, they do not want it their image in the registry, again, sure, Aqua will also be able to catch that through the enforcers or micro enforcers that are deployed, because those enforcers, okay, there are at least 3 different controls, if I can recall correctly, that will be able to block the image from running. First, if the image has not been registered in a registry, Aqua will already block it. Second, if the image is not compliant, Aqua will still block it. Okay, and third, an example of that would be like if it's not even using an approved base image, Aqua will still block the image. Okay, so there are so many layers of, in a way, redundancy, I would say, that Aqua can actually catch and prevent vulnerable images from even reaching the environment. And in the worst case scenario that it does, it can actually still protect customer environments from being exploited in that sense. Okay, I would say it's a very good point that this type of capabilities can inspire a lot of confidence in the security team, that even without too much overhead or even any sort of manual interaction, Aqua actually automatically does all of this in the background once we've done the configuration during the initial setup.
Yeah, I completely agree. Do you want to go to the next question, because I have another thing to mention?
I was going to say we've got a minute left, so this will have to be the last point before we wrap up.
Yeah. Can I?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just very quickly wanted to mention that on top of everything that we mentioned so far, there is even, one more thing with Aqua, which is basically giving you the ability to develop even further or enabling you even further. Just to mention a couple of things that I found very, very helpful. If you have to deal with secrets in Aqua and your workloads, you don't just make sure that your workloads are safe and at runtime they're working as expected, but you can also, make sure that when you inject secrets and very, sensitive information, these secrets are injected in the most, safe and possible way. So with Aqua, you also get the option, for example, to deal with secrets in your workloads at runtime, completely dynamic, even connecting with third-party secrets backend like HashiCorp Vault. Or another very cool thing with Aqua, if you're thinking about preventative measures in terms of admission control in Kubernetes, with Aqua, you can develop your own OPA custom compliance check, and you can let the Aqua Kube Enforcer act for you as an admission controller. So you don't only have, for example, when it comes to runtime protection at runtime as per se, but you can have preventative admission control protection, which is for the client an opportunity to specify their own custom compliance check that can span to very much everything. If you think about the potentiality of the OPA programming language and anyway compliance with Kubernetes. So you see, Aqua is really striving to bring as much power and as much capability to the team as possible, and that's something that as an engineer I really much appreciate.
That's great. Thank you very much. I think you guys have definitely made my job as host very easy, because you definitely took the questions and ran with them. So it's appreciated. So yeah, as I said, unfortunately that's all we've got time for this afternoon. Our time's come to an end. So if you do want to hear more about Aqua are actually at KubeCon 2021 in a couple of weeks. I've included a link to Aqua's booth and what sort of sessions they're running in the description below this channel. So please check that out. Also, keep an eye out on the ECS social pages, because we're going to be announcing another, I think we've got another couple in the pipeline for Ask Me Anything sessions in the near future. So keep an eye out for those. But yeah, all that's left for me to say is thanks to Benjy, Andrea, and Matt for joining us on the panel today. And thanks to everyone that joined us live. I know the weather's quite good, especially in parts of the UK. And also thanks to those of you who are watching the recording. As I said, if you do have a question, then leave it as a comment on the video, and we'll get back to that for you. But yeah, hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day, and thank you very much for watching.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.